Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Some people's real value is recognized after centuries, and unfortunately, those people sometimes are hated during their lifetime. Some of them are unfortunately eliminated and tortured and so on. One of them was Giordano Bruno. The other one was, for instance, Galileo Galilei. And let's get the example of Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei was an astrologist, astronomist, however you want to look at him. And he challenged the Euclidean worldview, and he said, by then it was accepted by the church that the earth was the center of the universe, and every other stars and whatever they were around in the system were just going around the earth, not the earth going revolving around the sun. So this Giordano Bruno and Galileo Galilei got in trouble with the church. Galileo Galilei and Giordano Bruno, both they were right. I think Giordano Bruno ended up on the stake and he was burned to death. I think Galileo Galilei was placed about 10 years on house arrest or whatever, but it didn't matter. Their value and their truth was recognized after years and years and years, after they were long gone. And democracy of thought, it runs like this. If we are in a room and we're 10 people and all of us but one claim that these are not eyeglasses, spectacles, but they are bicycles, and one person says, no, these are eyeglasses, we're going to say, no, we're 9, you're 1. We got to be right and you have to be wrong because it's more of us. So common sense. So that was with Giordano Bruno and Galileo Galilei. And to keep the proportions in check, I think of Mr. Viktor Orban as one of those guys who is nowadays hated, or at least wanna be hated, by certain kind of groups and portrayed as being a crazy and an evil guy. But I think what he does and what he says will be recognized after many, many years after we get out of these dark ages that are upon us. What am I talking about? Maybe you're familiar with what Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, said so far. But this is extra, and he's going to be probably blamed as being crazy and all that. But people who know things might find this, maybe he has certain things over there that are worth looking into. So this article comes from Russia Today. It's coming from today, June 2nd, 2023, and this is the title. Orban delighted by Erdogan's victory over, quote-unquote, Soros man, George Soros man. So in Erdogan's view, in Orban's view, Erdogan's opponent, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, would be Soros man, probably sponsored and promoted. Obviously, other people might say this is crazy and all that. Think of Galileo Galilei. The Hungarian Prime Minister said Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu would have allowed millions of refugees into Europe. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban described the election victory of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan over challenger Kemal K as a, and I'm quoting, huge relief into a radio broadcast on Friday. And I'm quoting, if Erdogan had not won, Soros men would have opened the borders to immigrants, end quote. Orban claimed, referring to Kılıçdaroğlu as an agent of billionaire currency speculator. Oh my God, he's not. I would like to protest this language. He's not a billionaire currency speculator. He is a billionaire philanthropist. He is to be referred to. billionaire philanthropist and founder of liberal causes George Soros. Had he won, up to 3 million of the 4 million refugees living in Turkey would be flooding the Hungarian border by the end of the summer, Orban presumed. And I'm quoting, "I didn't just root for him, I prayed specifically for President Erdogan's victory," end quote. Orban continued, and I quote again, "It would have been a tragedy if he had not won," end quote. The Prime Minister argued that, unlike Erdogan, Kılıçdaroğlu would have been a pro-war leader who could have disrupted Russian gas supplies to Hungary and Serbia. Hungary receives the vast majority of its natural gas from Russia via the Turk Stream pipeline, which carries gas from Russia to southern Europe through Turkey. Budapest has repeatedly blocked EU efforts to impose an embargo on Russian gas to punish Moscow for its military operation in Ukraine. Orban stressed the importance of convincing Ukraine and Russia, and I'm quoting, that a ceasefire is needed and that peace talks are necessary, end quote, lamenting that, and I'm quoting, "the vast majority in the EU is against us. They are not at our throats. They are at our throats." He predicted a bloodbath if Kiev were to go ahead with its planned counteroffensive, pointing out that the odds were not on the Ukrainians' side. Erdogan's officially won re-election on Sunday following a runoff vote, entering his third term with support from 52.14% of the electorate, according to the Turkey Supreme Election Council. This is a very small percentage for comfort, I tell you that. While Kılıçdaroğlu ran on a globalist platform of restarting EU accession talks, improving relations with the country's NATO's allies, and rolling back many of Erdogan's domestic reforms, he took a more forceful stance against open borders during the runoff, promising to send refugees back to their home countries. Erdogan consistently portrayed his opponent as hostile to traditional values, pro-terrorist and pro-LGBT. So, far from really equating or, getting Erdogan or Orban to Galileo Galilei's level for his statements, because what Galileo Galilei stated and claimed then in those circumstances are of much more importance, and the consequences were very, very about you die consequences. Very dangerous statement and very much courage from Galileo Galilei, and I think the same thing is true for Mr. Orban. So at least they mentioned the name that must not be mentioned, but in reverence and in the utmost highly appreciative words. As I said, billionaire philanthropist, Hungarian born. What else can we find? I don't know. Maybe he is a Holocaust survivor or not. I'm not sure, because I know he was alive during the Second World War. So I don't know if he ever said anything like that. It's very interesting that Israel does not really like Mr. Soros. But anyway, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.